Hey there. So it's been a snowy week in DC, and we're supposed to get another 6 inches of it tonight. So with any luck, tomorrow's a snow day, and I get to stay inside playing around with this stuff. But for right now, here's some of the stuff I've been working on this past week. First and foremost, last week, after demoing this trick right here, the around the head variant on a Meltdown, a gentleman was commenting on the YouTube comment section asking about Meltdown fountains, which I thought was a really, really interesting idea until I started breaking down the component bits of each one, namely that when you're doing a Meltdown, at least the way I start off with one hand in front, one hand behind, right to left hip, left to right hip, switch it around so you got one hand in front, one hand behind, left hand to left hip, right hand to right hip, left hand in front, right hand behind, then one hand in front, one hand behind, right hand to left hip, left hand to right hip, right? And then you go through reverse order. So if you want to, you can think about your hands, if they're along a horizontal plane, moving along that horizontal plane in split times, the same direction, right? So that they're always at opposite ends of the circle, and your body just happens to be in the middle of that circle, right? Resulting in the Meltdown that we all know and love. But when you try and combine it with a fountain, which the fountains that I've played with at least have been either up and around, or you add a windmill into it, or you do it as a buzzsaw, all of these feature hands put together. They're all on the same side of the body at the same time, right? So at face value, I don't think these are tricks that necessarily are that compatible with each other, but if you break it down a different way, which is in terms of, Alien Jon talks about the 4 quadrants of the body, that is, you know, you've got right side underarm, left side underarm, except it's reversed for you guys, that's left side underarm, right side overarm, left side overarm. Then we can break down that Meltdown pattern into those 4 quadrants. That is, the standard waist wrapping pattern winds up being, you know, right side underarm, left side underarm, left side overarm, right side overarm, right? And we can come up with different ways to move between those 4 quadrants. Like, say, if we want to move through each of them in order, say right underarm, right overarm, left underarm, and back, we wind up with a pattern that looks like this. Which is really like a 4-beat kind of Meltdown pattern, right? Alternatively, there are also the possibility of moving between diagonals in like an hourglass shape pattern. So for example, we could start right underarm, go to left overarm, then right overarm, and left underarm. So put that together, it looks like this. A little slower. Sorry, I tripped myself up there. So, there's 2 possible ways to move it in a box, 2 possible ways to move it in an hourglass, so a total of 4 combinations. Play around with these, see what you come up with out of them. Next up, so the isolation intensive has been continuing, and I'm getting to a point where I'm getting relatively happy with how the lockout to isolation movement is working for me. So now I've been working my way back to the isolation weave that was really my holy grail at the start of this. And when I first started it, I was thinking of the isolation weave as essentially switching which hand is on the outside and then switching which side of your body it's on, which I think is actually more complicated than it needs to be. So I've been kind of breaking it down in the standard way that you break down any weave, which is just, you know, rotation under, rotation over, back, rotation under, rotation over, back, rotation under, rotation over, back. And of course doing it with each hand, which my left hand is a little bit sloppy on that still, but it's at least producing a result that looks not gorgeous, but doable. So, it's sloppy as hell, but at least it is a valiant first effort, shall we say. More on that to come. Hopefully including a good-looking one. Finally, so G and Pineapple Pete did a really freaking cool video this past week about the idea of air wraps being the original kind of plane bending. That is, when you air wrap, your poi are almost at right angle to each other, and in the course of unwrapping, they wind up at right angle going the opposite direction, right? Which is all well and good, but G busted out this move that I hadn't seen before, wherein when you're doing a weave, you kind of switch into a little plane bending pattern to carry yourself through it, so that outside arm does an extension into a horizontal plane shift, and the result looks, at least as far as I'm concerned, really cool. He tricked this out a little bit by going from back to side to up to forward, and then resuming the weave, like so. Which I had this collective moment of, oh, holy crap, that looks cool, when I saw that. And started playing around with my own variants, namely, so if you take this kind of cat pattern that I was playing with in the Trochoid transition video, which is extension on the bottom, anti-spin up top, it's a soft transition for hand, hard transition for poi, and add that into the equation, you can do things like anti-spin up, then out, then forward, and around. Around, out, like so. Be very careful that you do not hit yourself in the head as you do this. And another variant, which kind of combines a couple other techniques into it, namely you rotate out, you let it drop, do a through the leg transition, and you come out of it with the poi spinning 90 degrees off of your original poi. And you can use that as a transition to go into an atomic style wave, like so. So altogether, that winds up being out, down, around, atomic, like so. Once again, out, around, down, and atomic. One last time, out, around, down, out, around, down, through the legs, atomic, and scene. Cool. So that's all I got for this week. Thanks everybody for watching. Please leave comments if you've got great ideas or if I'm effing up on something. And aside from that, I will see you guys next week with a lot more fun stuff. Thanks.